Let's take a look at PA programs to see if they have a positive ROI. So I'm going to look at UNC's program, and I'm going to look at their rival, Duke University, basically representing an in-state public university and a private, more expensive university to see if one or both have positive ROIs from their PA programs. So if we look at the UNC program for residents, $62,000 of direct expenses, and then right around $25,000 a year of additional costs. If you look at the Duke program, also a 2-year program, you've got a total cost in year 1 of about $95,000, total cost in year 2 about $90,000. So all in about $185,000. So if you analyze both of these schools, say it's a 2-year program, say you're going to borrow $185,000 with Duke, $112,000 with UNC, and you'll be able to borrow for federal and private loans at a high single-digit percent interest rate, but still significantly cheaper than it could be. What would be the cost? What would be the ROI? And then let's say that you could get an undergrad job making $70,000 a year if you didn't go. So if we look at the total debt borrowed for Duke, you're going to be borrowing a lot of private student loans. So you'd have to borrow about $72,000 in private student loans, depending on how Department of Ed ends up coding PA borrowing. PA borrowing could get coded as a non-professional degree, as crazy as that sounds, which would limit it to $20,500 per year federal borrowing. If they do code it as a professional degree, you'd be able to borrow $50,000 of federal loans, which would be much better. But let's just say the worst case scenario happens and you have to borrow a large amount of private student loans for Duke's PA program. What would the math look like? So you would pay back your federal student loans on the RAP plan. In year 1, you would get an interest subsidy. For private student loans, you have to pay about $2,000 a month. And if you look at your AGI over time, if you say you're an average earning PA, that's about $137,000 on average. You can see the distribution of incomes here for readers in our surveys that we've done of PA incomes. So if you're earning about $137,000 after tax, it's about $100,000 or so. After student loan payments, it's about right around $70,000. So for the first few years, you're paying off your federal student loans. Those are gone first. Then you're paying off your private student loans. Once those are gone, you're finally home free. If you look at the income with after taxes without this degree, and you compare it to the income after taxes and student loans, even at the high cost university, you're still making a positive ROI over what you'd make as a bachelor's degree holder only. So that's a pretty significant ROI, even at that higher cost university. Now, if you go to the lower cost public university, you have about $10,000 to $15,000 more per year in disposable income before paying off your student loans because you're borrowing significantly less in private student loans. So the short answer here is if you're going to a PA program, if it's if it's maybe certainly less than 3 years in length, but if it's 2 years to barely above 2 years in length, even a higher cost private university still makes sense, even if you have to take out private student loans. This is just coming from the fact that PA programs have a strong average earning level. They have a short period where you're borrowing, where you get out into the workforce much sooner, so there's lower opportunity cost, and the employment prospects are very good, and it seems like the demand for PAs just continues to increase. So it seems like this degree would be one that you would feel comfortable borrowing for. In contrast, there's some other degrees out there that have more saturation that also take longer to obtain the degree that would be less wise to borrow for. So it does depend on the degree. It does depend on the type of university you're going to, the cost of the program. But in most cases, PA school is a good decision financially. If you need to get the best deals for PA school, we have a student loan marketplace on studentloanplanner.com. And if you need help figuring out how to best borrow and whether you should borrow and what your finances will look like after graduation, we can also make a plan for you at studentloanplanner.com. Put your questions in the comments. What do you think about PA school? What do you think about the ROI of PA school? Put it in the comments. We'd love to hear. Thanks for watching Student Loan Planner.